July 11th, 1944, 6:23 a.m. Outside Villers-Bocage, Normandy. The morning mist clung to the hedgerows like smoke from a dying fire, its gray tendrils weaving between the ancient stone walls that had divided Norman fields for 1,000 years. Through this ethereal landscape, the deep rumble of diesel engines announced the approach of Germany's most feared weapon, a column of Tiger I tanks, their massive 88mm guns traversing slowly as they searched for targets among the maze of Bocage terrain. Each 57-ton behemoth represented the pinnacle of German armored engineering, protected by steel plates up to 100 millimeters thick and armed with a gun that could destroy any Allied tank at distances exceeding 2 miles. Inside the lead Tiger, Hauptmann Klaus Weber adjusted his periscope with the confident precision of a veteran who had survived 2 years of tank warfare on the Eastern Front. The 26-year-old commander had witnessed his Tiger destroy dozens of Soviet T-34s and American Shermans, each victory reinforcing his absolute faith in German technological superiority. Around him, his 4-man crew operated with the mechanical efficiency that came from months of training and combat experience, their movements synchronized by the unshakable belief that they were operating an invincible war machine. But as Weber's Tiger crested a low ridge overlooking the village of Villers-Bocage, he encountered something that would shatter every assumption about Allied tank warfare. Hidden among the ruins of a bombed church, the angular silhouette of an American M4A1 Sherman waited in perfect ambush position. But this was no ordinary Sherman. The familiar 75mm gun had been replaced by a longer, more sinister barrel that gleamed dully in the morning light. This was the new 76mm high-velocity gun, a weapon system that German intelligence had dismissed as inadequate against modern German armor. The Normandy campaign had begun 5 weeks earlier, with German tank crews supremely confident in their technological advantages. The Tiger I tank had established a reputation for invincibility that bordered on mythical, capable of engaging and destroying multiple enemy tanks while remaining virtually immune to return fire. German tank crews had grown accustomed to battles where Allied shells bounced harmlessly off their frontal armor while their own 88mm guns methodically destroyed everything in their path at ranges that enemy tanks could not match. This confidence was rooted in painful Allied experience. During the early weeks of the Normandy fighting, standard American 75mm Sherman tanks had proven woefully inadequate against German heavy armor. The M61 armor-piercing shell fired by the 75mm gun could penetrate only 76mm of armor at 500 yards, insufficient to threaten a Tiger's frontal protection even at point-blank range. American tank crews had been forced to rely on numerical superiority and tactical maneuvering, accepting casualty rates that sometimes reached 80% in tank-versus-tank engagements. Obergefreiter Hans Kruger, Weber's gunner, had personally witnessed the destruction of 17 Allied tanks during the June fighting around Commes, each kill achieved with the methodical precision that made German gunnery the terror of Allied armored forces. In his letters home to Bavaria, Kruger had written with characteristic German confidence, "The Americans have many tanks, but they are thin-skinned and poorly armed. Our Tiger can destroy 5 of their Shermans before they can approach close enough to threaten us. Their 75mm guns are toys compared to our 88mm cannon." But as Weber's Tiger approached the concealed Sherman position near Villers-Bocage, a revolution in Allied anti-tank warfare was about to be demonstrated with devastating effect. The M1 76mm gun, mounted on the new Sherman variants, represented a quantum leap in American firepower, capable of firing the M93 Hypervelocity armor-piercing round at muzzle velocities exceeding 2,600 feet per second.
This projectile could penetrate 157 millimeters of armor at 1,000 yards, more than enough to defeat Tiger tank protection at normal combat ranges. The development of this weapon system had begun 18 months earlier in American ordnance laboratories, where engineers had recognized that defeating German heavy armor would require fundamentally new approaches to anti-tank warfare. The 76mm gun represented not just an incremental improvement, but a complete reimagining of American tank armament philosophy. Unlike the multi-purpose 75mm gun, which was designed to engage both armor and infantry targets, the 76mm was optimized specifically for tank versus tank combat, sacrificing high explosive capability for unprecedented armor penetration. American metallurgists had simultaneously developed new tungsten carbide penetrator cores that could maintain their effectiveness even after impact with the hardest German armor steel. The manufacturing process required precision machining capabilities that leveraged America's industrial expertise in automotive and aircraft production, creating ammunition that was not only more effective than anything in the German inventory, but could be produced in quantities that dwarfed European manufacturing capacity. The first indication of this technological transformation came not through intelligence reports or captured equipment, but through the sudden, inexplicable vulnerability of German heavy tanks that had previously seemed invulnerable. Tiger commanders, who had grown accustomed to engaging Allied armor with impunity, began reporting successful penetrations of their frontal armor by American guns that intelligence had classified as inadequate for anti-tank warfare. As Weber's Tiger moved into the killing zone established by the concealed Sherman, Staff Sergeant Robert Patterson centered his new 76mm gun on the German tank's frontal slope. Patterson had trained extensively with the new weapons system at Fort Knox, where American tank crews had learned to exploit the superior ballistics of the Hypervelocity round. At 800 yards, the M93 projectile would strike Weber's Tiger with more kinetic energy than the German tank's own 88mm gun could deliver at the same range. The psychological impact on German tank crews proved as devastating as the tactical consequences. Men who had been conditioned to view their Tigers as mobile fortresses suddenly found themselves vulnerable to weapons they had been taught to dismiss as ineffective. The sound of American 76mm rounds penetrating Tiger armor created a distinctive crack that veteran German tankers would later describe as the sound of invincibility dying. Weber's radio transmission, preserved in German military archives, captured the disbelief that characterized the German response to this new American capability. Penetration of frontal armor by American 76mm. Repeat, the Americans have punched through our Tiger front plate at 800 meters. This cannot be possible with their small guns. The recurring symbol that would define this transformation was the distinctive muzzle brake of the American 76mm gun, a fluted steel device that reduced recoil while creating a characteristic flash signature that German tank crews learned to fear. Unlike the smooth-bore appearance of the 75mm Sherman gun, the 76mm muzzle brake announced its presence with unmistakable authority, serving as a visible warning that this was not the familiar, ineffective American tank armament the German crews had grown to despise. For German tank crews who had spent 2 years establishing psychological dominance over Allied armor, the appearance of effective American anti-tank guns represented a complete collapse of their tactical worldview. Kruger would later write in his diary, "Today I watched an American shell punch through our Tiger's frontal armor as if it were paper. The Americans have created a gun that makes our invincible tank into a steel coffin. Everything we believed about our superiority was destroyed in that single moment." The technical specifications of the 76mm gun's performance against German armor revealed the extent of American metallurgical and ballistics achievement. The M93 Hypervelocity round achieved penetration performance that exceeded anything in the German inventory, including the vaunted 88mm gun that had made the Tiger tank legendary. At normal combat ranges, the new American gun could penetrate German armor that had been considered immune to Allied fire. But perhaps more shocking to German military leaders was the realization that the 76mm gun represented only the beginning of American anti-tank development.
Intelligence reports indicated that even more powerful weapons were already in production, including 90mm guns that could destroy any existing German tank at ranges exceeding 2 miles. The same industrial capacity that had produced the 76mm gun was simultaneously developing new ammunition types, improved armor-piercing technology, and fire control systems that would render German armor obsolete within months. The strategic implications became clear during the subsequent Normandy battles. As 76mm armed Shermans were deployed throughout American armored divisions, German tank losses mounted catastrophically, while Allied casualties in tank versus tank engagements declined to historically low levels. The Tiger's reputation for invincibility, built over 2 years of combat dominance, evaporated in a matter of weeks as American gunners demonstrated their ability to destroy German heavy tanks at will.
Hauptmann Weber, who survived the destruction of his Tiger near Villers-Bocage, documented the transformation in German morale in his post-war memoir. "We had been the hunters, and suddenly we became the hunted. The Americans had solved the problem of our armor in the same way they solved every military problem, through superior engineering and unlimited industrial capacity. The muzzle brake of their 76mm gun became a symbol of American technological domination, proof that they could overcome any German advantage through sheer innovative power." The psychological symbolism of the 76mm gun's muzzle brake extended beyond its immediate tactical significance for German tank crews who witnessed these new weapons in action. The distinctive steel device represented the visible manifestation of American industrial might, reaching into the heart of Germany's most advanced military technology. The fluted brake created a flash signature that announced each shot with unmistakable authority, serving as a mechanical signature of democratic determination applied to the destruction of fascist armor. The transformation of German tank crew morale proved irreversible. Veterans who had dominated battlefields from the Eastern Front to North Africa found themselves facing opponents who possessed not only numerical superiority, but technological advantages that made effective resistance increasingly futile. The 76mm gun's performance against Tiger tanks demonstrated that American weapons designers had solved problems that German engineers had not even recognized, creating anti-tank capabilities that combined superior ballistics, advanced metallurgy, and precision manufacturing in ways that challenged fundamental assumptions about armored warfare. By the autumn of 1944, the presence of 76mm armed Shermans had become routine throughout American armored forces, transforming tank warfare from a contest of individual technical superiority into a systematic campaign that could be sustained indefinitely.
German armored production, already strained by material shortages and bombing attacks on factories, could not replace Tiger tanks at rates sufficient to counter American numerical and technological advantages.
The muzzle brake of the 76mm gun had become a symbol of a larger transformation in the nature of armored warfare itself. The technological superiority the German tank crews had cultivated through superior engineering and combat experience could not overcome the fundamental reality of American industrial capacity applied to solving specific military problems. The distinctive flash signature of the 76mm gun became visible proof that democratic societies possessed advantages that no amount of tactical excellence or engineering sophistication could overcome. In the end, The sight of American 76mm guns destroying Tiger tanks represented more than a tactical innovation or weapons development success. It demonstrated the power of democratic societies to identify military problems, mobilize scientific resources, and produce technological solutions at scales that seemed impossible to achieve. The muzzle brake of the 76mm gun became a mechanical manifestation of American abundance, proof that free societies could translate industrial capacity into battlefield superiority through the simple but overwhelming application of democratic energy to the pursuit of victory.
The German tank crews who witnessed their invincible Tigers destroyed by American 76mm guns were seeing the future of warfare, a glimpse of conflicts where victory would belong not to the most experienced or technically sophisticated, but to the nations capable of mobilizing democratic creativity in service of technological supremacy. The impossible had become routine, and the invincible had been rendered obsolete by the methodical application of American engineering to the problems of modern war.